It's supposed to be a house built.
Yeah, I know. Just looking. Where's my pounder? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Could I get everybody to mute their cell phones, please? I'd like to call the regular meeting of the Wasilla Planning Commission for February 14th, 2023 to order. Clerk, will you please take the roll?
Commissioner Crofton?
Here.
Commissioner Seals?
Here.
Commissioner Sajel?
Here.
Commissioner Burney?
Here.
Commissioner Stafford?
Here. Commissioner Crafton, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Does the commission have any adjustments to tonight's meeting agenda?
Nothing.
Hearing no changes to the agenda will stand as presented. Do we have a report from the City Deputy Administrator?
Thank you, Chair. You'll see that I did a handout, just a quick update on some of the projects we're working on, as well as the priorities that have been put in front of our delegation in this down in Juneau and back in DC. Just a couple things to note. We do have about 5.5 million coming for wastewater upgrades, and that's primarily upgrading our sewer system. That will happen this spring. Sales tax was good for 2022. It ended on a very good note. We still continue to get quite a few calls for new businesses that are moving out here. We just need the infrastructure to keep up. Thank you.
City Attorney, do you have a report this evening? City Attorney, do you have a report this evening? Guess we'll move on. City Planner, do you have a report this evening?
The only thing I have to report as the deadline for the March meeting is this Friday. So far, we don't have any petitions online. However, you'll probably see one committee of the whole discussion dealing with processes and or a public hearing to revise the review times that are in the code. Currently, they're really tight as far as the completeness reviews, like 1 day. An actual review, even for a large commercial project, is like 3 days. So we'll be bringing forward an amendment that puts it more in line with other communities and what they do. So whether it falls as a public hearing or a committee, the whole discussion, it'll at least be on your agenda, along with some other processes and just as a committee of the whole discussion, looking at seeing if they need to be updated. So more to come.
Thank you. Anyone wishing to step forward tonight to discuss anything not on the agenda tonight can do so now. No one present. The next item of business is the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Commissioner Sajel, make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Stafford, second.
If there are no objections, the consent agenda is approved as presented. New business. Ms. Crawford, would you please introduce item 1 and provide your staff report?
Certainly, for the record, Tina Crawford, City Planner. The only item you have on your agenda tonight is a public hearing for short-term rental 22-02. And the associated resolution 23-02. The applicant is Michael Lane. The request is for approval of a short-term rental in one unit of an existing duplex at 951 West Selena Lane. The lot area is just over an acre in size. The property is zoned rural residential and has a commercial future land use designation. In your package on pages 9 through 21, you have the staff report. That includes all of the criteria and requirements, the findings that are needed for a short-term rental, and also elevation of a permit decision. This application was elevated to the Planning Commission based on neighborhood concerns. Some of those concerns dealt with vehicular traffic on a dead-end street, noise, decrease in property values, difficulty enforcing regulations, and negative impacts to neighborhood stability. All those comments are in your package that were received. As indicated in the staff report, staff is recommending approval of the short-term rental with conditions. Just wanted to briefly go through, touch on a couple criteria. One of them on page 11 is 16.26.050B3. States the residential character of the neighborhood in which the use is located will be maintained and preserved, and the issuance of the permit will not be detrimental to the public health, safety, and welfare of the residents in the neighborhood, or detrimental to the community within the vicinity of the short-term rental. The staff's finding is that this criterion is met. The short-term rental is in a duplex that's located on the north side of Selena Lane. It is also in the northern unit of that existing duplex, and the two adjoining lots are undeveloped. Also, Selena Lane serves as a buffer and a transition between the R1 single-family zoning along the lake, it's on the south side of Selena, and the rural residential zoning along the north side of Selena Lane. The north side of Selena Lane also abuts the Alaska Railroad and the Parks Highway right-of-way. And it does, as you will see in your maps, on page 24, that property, the zoning map is on the previous page, but your future land use map is on page 24. You'll see that the subject property is crosshatched, and it is in a commercial future land use. So whereas the properties along the lake are in a residential future land use. So it's a different classification, a different character, and that's why staff found that it did meet that criteria. There were just a couple things to point out. Just interesting of note on page 14, the finding regarding density states that there were 75 permits available, 74 because the commission approved one last meeting. And then, but it still meets the criteria. And then on pages 20 and 21 are just some general housekeeping type conditions of approval. None of them are substantive. The applicant's seen them and is aware of the need to get the updated documents to us. So again, it's housekeeping type things. The only thing that I would call out is condition number 3 does state that the rental period must be a minimum of 3 nights. This is consistent with what the applicant proposed in his application. So this isn't actually an additional requirement, it's just codifying how he said it would operate. And with that, I don't have anything else. Be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Would the applicant like to make a presentation regarding the proposed request?
Sir, it's not anything to extent, but I would like to point out, I know there was some concerns that some of my neighbors had brought to the attention of the commission, but you know, I'm not trying to use this opportunity to this type of issues for my neighbors. I'm not trying to create some type of transient place where it's attracting unwanted type of people. My objective here is to supplement my income and create a nice environment for people to get away. If it's not Miami or the LA, it's a quiet place where the people that are looking for place to relax. And I'd like to give that opportunity to better for some type of solace and quiet place. In addition to having my peaceful place to go. Outside of that, if I were to rent it out to a regular family, it would probably induce a lot more traffic than it would with a short-term rental for a couple coming in for a few days every other week or something like that. So with that being said, I'm not in the business of replacing or fixing a bunch of dated stuff. That's not the type of population I'm looking smart to do. But I'm hoping to bring some type of positive business to Wasilla and the area and the local businesses within our community. If anybody has any questions or place to offer some insight or clarity on what my intentions are with applying for the short-term rental permit.
Thank you. The public comments portion of the public hearing is now open for a short-term rental permit number 2202. Is there anyone wishing to speak on this item? You have 5 minutes to provide your comments. Please write your name and contact information on the sign-up sheet and state your name for the record. You have 5 minutes to provide your comment.
Okay, my name is Mark Hamlin. I'm at 950 West Selena Lane. I'm just directly across from the duplex. And let me get this signed in real quick. Okay, this took a little quicker than we thought it was going to be. We thought we were going to be here till about 7 or 8 o'clock before we got onto the agenda. So there's a few people that haven't made it yet that we're planning on coming. Just one point of clarification. So, Tina, you had said there was a vacant lot on both sides of the duplex. There is a vacant lot on one side of the duplex. On the other side of the duplex, Juanita here lives in that house. So, just a point of clarification. As far as our community, it's kind of a complex situation when you look at our road. So you have Selena Lane. On one side, you have residential lakefront homes. On the other side, you have now what's starting to become duplex row. We're getting a lot of duplexes put in, which is zoned for. And progress is going to happen. And most of us are okay with the duplexes because of the fact that we can at least get to know who our neighbors are. There's a lot of people that walk up and down that dead-end road. We're very close-knit neighborhood, as you can see by people who made it. We do have 2 other individuals who will probably end up showing up late. And by having a transient type of rental in our neighborhood, we're going to have cars coming and going that we don't know. We have kids out on the street that are out there riding their bikes up and down. The landlord who's going to be renting it, you can't really screen your applicants that well. I mean, you're not going to know. I mean, I understand the intent is to bring in good people into this neighborhood, but you can't know who everybody's going to be coming in on a VRBO. It's a little easier when you have it as a long-term rental because you typically screen, make sure you got a credit report, that you know who's going to be there. And when they're there long-term, it gives the rest of the neighborhood the ability to get to know that person as well. And we all can look out for each other. So as far as the short-term, that was one of our concerns in the neighborhood is having transient people coming in and out of this dead-end road area where we have lakefront properties. The lakefront properties values are going to be hurt as more VRBOs come in. This becomes a hotel row. This isn't just about this one unit. It's about this one unit becoming more units across the street from us, and all the other duplexes are filing and wanting a VRBO for their duplexes. And then we're going to be Hotel Alley on Selena Lane versus a residential neighborhood with lakefront homes in which we are paying pretty high taxes on our lakefront homes, and it's gonna be impacted by this. The other question I had was enforcement. So I know there are some parameters around what can be done and how many nights to stay. Who enforces that, or who is expected to enforce that? Is that upon us as the neighbors to enforce and let you guys know when things are not meeting the requirements? Or is somebody watching over this and doing code enforcement? That would be a question. Can we ask questions?
Not at this time.
Okay, so that would be a concern of ours then, is the code enforcement. We're all professionals, most of us are retired on the lakefront properties. Everybody who's here is a lakefront property owner, other than Juanita, who is a resident next door to this duplex. And, you know, we just don't want to be the code enforcement. We don't want to have to call in, monitor, complain. None of us ever been to one of these meetings before. We've never complained about anything in our neighborhood. You know, we don't want to be the code enforcement officers, which I think it falls upon us to have to do the code enforcement. I don't believe there's anybody here in the city who's doing code enforcement for these types of properties. You know, when you look at Hawaii, and I did some research on this, you know, Hawaii's also putting in a lot of restrictions over there. Alaska and Hawaii are two big destinations for vacation properties. And when you look at Hawaii, they've started to put in a 90-day. I think they have one in right now where they're requesting at least a 90-day stay for somebody coming into a VRBO, because it's ruining the properties over in the Hawaiian Islands, and they're concerned about what's happening to the residential communities over there with VRBOs. It's causing housing prices to be inflated. It's ruining the residential communities. And if you look at what they're doing, they have gone to, or have proposed, it is 30 days, they're now proposing to go up to 90 days. And that was the short-term stay, would be a 90-day. I applaud this commission for at least having a permit where you guys can control and see what is happening within the city limits for VRBOs. And I think that was a good foresight on your part, and that's why we have these meetings to sit down and discuss, does it make sense? I understand that this is RR1, so rural residential, but does it make sense for this street of Salina to have VRBOs operating in a small, close-knit community with a dead-end street? And with that, if there's no other questions, I'll turn it over to somebody else.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I guess that's me.
Hi, I'm Vicki Feo, and I live at 924 West Salina Lane, which is next door on the lake from where this duplex project is happening. And one thing that I don't think you guys understand, which would be nice, hold on, let me fill out this form. Is that in our little quiet neighborhood we have, the road is like maybe 1,000 feet long. And there are 3 duplexes that are rated RR1 or RR whatever. And the rest of us live on the lakeside. And if this is passed, you are potentially opening the door to have 6 of these vacation rentals on the other side of the road, where 75 to 80% of the people that live in this neighborhood that own homes are retired older people. I don't think this is appropriate. The reason that everybody lives there is because it's a quiet, tiny neighborhood. And I just cannot imagine having a vacation rental that can hold up to 8 people for 3 days, 3 months, it doesn't matter. They're gonna have multiple vehicles, as it is right now. Sometimes people from the duplexes park on the street. They cannot plow the roads. It's just not even something that I think we should even be thinking about doing in this tiny little neighborhood. I mean, there's only like 20, 25 houses on both sides of the road, if you include the 3 duplexes. So I don't think that it's anything that you should even be considering in this neighborhood. There are plenty of other places that somebody could buy a duplex in a big neighborhood if they want to have a vacation rental or whatever. But our little tiny neighborhood of retired people, Juanita's here, she lives 50 feet from this duplex. She's at the end of my driveway. She bought that house because it was a quiet neighborhood on a dead-end street. I don't think that she should have to put up with people coming and going in a vacation rental. I don't think it's fair to her or our neighborhood. And that's all I have to say.
My name is Juanita Hoffman, and I live directly across from the duplex now. I'm at 925 West Salina. And I cannot imagine anybody putting in a short-term rental in there. Right now, I have never met the gentleman that owns it now. I understand there's somebody in there that is managing it. For 2 years now, I have put up with a business, and I understand the business can move in there. But they are 50 foot outside of my bedroom window. They built right on the line as close as they could, and the duplex sets with the front of the duplex facing my place. The garages are in the front. There are 2 garages which are almost too small for a large truck to get into and turn around to get into these garages. For 2 years, I have pretty much put up with the noise and everything. They park big trucks in there, and it is generally hard. I cannot open my front room windows because of the lights from the trucks and everything shining in there. Now, I understand they have a perfect right to be in there, but now evidently the gentleman has sold off his 2 businesses, and now he wants to put in a short-term rental. Who is going to supervise those rentals? Nobody knows. We do not know whether it's going to be out of state, whether it's going to be someone in state. We have all heard of the horrors of some of these short-term rentals. If you don't have somebody who is in part of the duplex or close by, you don't know what those people are doing. You know, they could be very nice people, or they could be a bunch of kids that come in for a party. You know, it was a very, very quiet neighborhood, but it is growing. And, you know, we don't have any problems with people that are building in there. All of the big trucks coming in and out of there for people building their homes, they are very good. You know, they're followed the speed limits, you know, which this last business did not do. It just was very uncomfortable. And when I cannot open my bedroom windows or even my living room windows and look out and see nothing but equipment, which he did sell off just here a short while ago, but for 2 years, I would look out my bedroom window. I would see nothing but snow plowing and lawn equipment parked right in the front of their place You know, and this new idea just does not make sense for our neighborhood at all. And I guess that's all I have to say unless anybody would like to ask me a question.
Not at this time. Thank you very much.
Gentlemen, I'm John Fail. I've been in the area for about 30 years plus, and I've witnessed it all. Just to reiterate on what Mark has said, and Juanita, I can't believe we'd make a change in the ruling, what you've already got going forth with the zoning for the commercial on that side of the road to the north. It's different from us on the south side. They haven't managed that correctly, and none of these other outfits have been managed correctly in this vicinity, rental-wise. You guys have not done your job policing it. I've had neighbors next to me been renting illegally. There's been others renting illegally on a commercial level. You guys are never policing it. And to change it from a rental agreement to a B&B on a 3-day process, the little small community can't take the infrastructure of the traffic. For one, a landlord is not even here. We heard him on the speaker. He's outside. His tenant that is managing the place is the one that's been there before, as we needed, as explained, with the yard business, a lawn, snow plowing business. We've been faced and brought to the city's attention, parking the equipment on the roadway while they're coming and going commercially against the law. You guys don't know what's going on in some of these others that have been renting. On our side of the road to the south, they've been renting. 2 occupancies, fully contained, with kitchenettes and toilets. Unpermissible. It's been going on and you guys have missed the boat on that. I hate to see us change the tune and relax the note, going from a rental business when a landlord, I was a landlord for 20 years myself. We were tight on our qualifications when we had somebody come into our property. And we screened these people. We didn't want bad apples. You can't get that with a 3-day in and out or 2-day in and out or whatever. I like the point of view when, like Mark was saying, how now Hawaii is trying to change the tune and get a little bit more volume of attendance before they rent to somebody so that they can actually have a hand on them instead of just every 2, 3, 4 days. It's a small little community, like most have said. We're on the south side, this is the north side. We've built a duplex in the past. I was one of the first to build one. My 2 sons built one up on the far end to the east. They were tucked back in. Now we've ended up with a couple others right on the corner. And I don't know if you guys have been out there draping the tape. Are they all set back properly? This particular outfit that we're talking about right now that's wanting to change this ruling and go from a commercial rental operation to a RBO, they actually started on somebody else's property and were told that they had already scarfed out somebody else's land and then moved over and got on the right property before they even built. You guys, if you do make a change, you guys are going to have to get active and be policing what's going on out there. They're not everybody's following the rules. And I need to make that clear because, like Mark says, do we have to be the wardens of the subdivision? Do we have to be calling in all the time and hopefully we're going to get some satisfaction with the city? Or we got to call the cops? We've called the cops before. There's been problems on this outfit next to where Juanita is at right now.
Your 5 minutes is up, sir.
And that's in public testimony, so you need to review that too with discharging of firearms. Thank you.
Thank Anyone else that would like to come up?
Hi, my name is Bob Facino. I'm a resident around to the front side, a little farther, more towards when you come into it. But my mother-in-law is Juanita. It is an incredibly nice, quiet neighborhood back there. Everybody's, for the most part, real respectful to each other. It's safe. And the problem with short term, you don't know what you're going to get. Long term, it's more of a thing like what the gentleman made as far as a comment of you kind of have a chance to get to know them, or they're part of the neighborhood. And there's approval process too, that are not, just letting anybody rent in there. But I just wanted to say that it is an extremely nice, quiet neighborhood back there. And everybody cares. So, I mean, that's obvious. And as far as oversight, that'll be something that will have to be set up or whatever. I talked briefly to the planner, and there's ways to do it, but I think this is pretty new. It sounds like it's a pretty new concept to the community. So we really need to watch what we're doing. You can open a can of worms and not mean to. If there's any questions or anything?
Not at this time. Thank you. At this time, does the applicant have anything else to address?
Yeah, just a couple things. I appreciate everybody's feedback. The only thing I would like to point out is, first off, the discharge fire that's completely erroneous. Spoke with the Wasilla PD, went back all the way to construction of the new place, already purchased it. The only call that have been to the property was medical. So that's a complete lie. And then Mr. When I believe that dump truck business, he likes to plow his brought to the driveway or grass. I've never met him. Know why say the things that he when he's never met. I'm in the military. Mr. Spike's my tenant. Been living there since I believe around 2017. Yes, he is. He's a very clean individual. He plows pretty that and he's known this, made these allegations to get this like a very poor space, but then set parties and all up my place, which is a complete lie. Wife is chiropractic. Our intent was to move up there and get this permanently transferred. We were going to stay in our duplex while we built our home. That didn't work out. So now, because of rising costs, we're looking to supplement. We can't be up there. I understand you guys are concerned. We're transient people, but I'm not in the business of paying my property. And if I were to allow people to my home, that's all I would be doing. It wouldn't be anything but a burden. I'm sure that this is a frequently new idea to a lot of people, but not a new concept for a resident. It's a very, very good way for a decent family out that can afford hotel rooms that can't house money. An opportunity to get a good family time to get. I didn't do the zoning. My property is owned, entitled to apply for, and I'm not looking to ruin it. Where the activities on this depend on me. Mr. Sykes' equipment been parked on the road. There's plenty of cars on our property. No cars have ever from my property. The only other equipment, the rest of the construction going free or so I don't think it was something who police on I don't even get to be at my so I'm not real estate guru guy who's trying to make this thing.
Is that all?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Excuse me, sir, just a short brief. I don't know how we can even
I'm sorry.
absorb what's going on here. We cannot understand a word that's going on. Just,
I'm having the same difficulty I'm catching.
he was saying some things I thought he was saying that are not right. I could not hear that clarity. That was poor.
I'm sorry.
He was so enthused with this, he ought to be here. I'm sorry.
Thank you. Now I need a motion to either approve or deny short-term rental permit 2202, resolution number 2302.
Trying to catch your attention.
I was gonna say, you may wanna ask the commissioners if they had any questions of the applicant. Maybe you can speak slower. I know the city clerk said, and I apologize for the technology, the city clerk said they were having difficulty last night too. So try and work through that, but this would be the opportunity for the commission to ask any questions of the applicant. Once the motion's on the table, then you wouldn't have that opportunity.
Do the other commissioners have any questions of the applicant?
Not of him, but I did have some just general questions. Did we want to enter a discussion at all on this, or could we?
Usually we do right after the motion. Mr. Burney?
Get clarity.
Yeah, I didn't have, I really couldn't understand what the applicant was saying.
Can't hear him.
We're having the same trouble with you, Commissioner Burney. Anything, Melvin?
Not, I have some general questions, but not for not for the applicant.
Yeah, no questions for the applicant at this time.
Okay, now I need a motion to either approve or deny short-term rental permit number 22-02, resolution serial number 2302.
Make a motion to move short-term rental 2202.
To approve it?
To approve it, yeah.
Do I have a second?
Commissioner Stafford, second.
All right, is there any discussion by the commission?
A few questions on here. One, were we going to implement a minimum of 3 nights as a, or was that's a decision of the applicant to make that 3-night minimum, or are we going to make it a condition of approval, which is what it's listed on page 20? It's a condition of approval.
So the condition, it is a condition of approval in the resolution for 3 nights, but it is also what the applicant proposed in their petition.
Okay. I mean, I'll just make my comment. I mean, the commission can decide if they want to remove it or not. I think because we have it as a 1-night minimum in our code, adding this in here as a condition of approval, I feel like it might be a little unnecessary in this case here. If the applicant chooses to, or whoever chooses to make it a minimum 3-night standard rental period, I think that would be I mean, I'd be up for striking this from a condition for approval. Otherwise, a couple other questions I had as well was why we need our insurance to name the city of Wasilla as well.
It's a requirement in the short-term
Yeah.
rental, right, ordinance.
And that's more so the general question is what purpose does it serve the
It's liability
the city?
insurance for the city, so it protects the city. If there were a claim made against the property owner because the city, I'm speaking legally, the city attorney's not on the line, but the reason that that's provision is in the code is in case they were to name the city as a party covered under their insurance.
So all businesses have this insurance?
Mobile food vendors have it, and short-term rentals have that requirement. Park vendors have requirements too that the city requires. So no, not all Fred Meyer's, Target, those kind of businesses do not have that requirement. But these type of kind of different type uses, it's typical to see that requirement.
Is it more so a fact that they might not have the money to back up a lawsuit in asset aspect? So that's why we don't require it of bigger vendors, but we require it of smaller vendors, it sounds like?
Again, small business owners wouldn't have to do it either. It's just in the ordinance that was adopted by the city council, that was a requirement of protection that was put in place for short-term rentals. They're a quasi-residential, quasi-hotel, transient accommodation type use, and that was part of the ordinance that went forward.
Sure. Sorry, last question for me. Statement from the licensed commercial home inspector. This is under also a condition of approval. They're required to get a home inspection to get their permit. Is this a secondary statement as if somebody didn't have it in there, like say a smoke detector was missing, or fire extinguisher was missing, or the windows weren't operable? Is this an additional statement from the home inspector, or would like a home inspection satisfied after they had that completed?
So the home inspection that was submitted neglected to address those requirements. So
So
this is just having him add that on.
That's what I was double checking, was I was like, it sounds like we're almost requiring them to have a second statement submitted, because I didn't see the home inspection there. So, again, I would consider removing that 3 nights from here, but that's all my questions and comments from them.
The question I had concerned, some of the residents talked about code enforcement, so who would that responsibility fall to?
Call the police every night.
So, for the commission, it's a combination. So unpermitted short-term rentals and short-term rentals that aren't paying their sales tax are addressed through the sales tax auditor, which is in the finance department. So there's a component of code compliance there. They work hand in hand with the code compliance officer. If there were, things that need to be followed up on, we have a code compliance officer. There's an online portal where you can put in a code compliance complaint for anything, whether it's anything to do with the city code, but this would include short-term rentals. PD is always available for after hours for nuisance. There's not an adopted noise ordinance, but there's still a nuisance type thing that they can respond to. The short-term rental owner is required to post a 2 square foot sign, or at least no larger than 2 square feet, to have the local contact person's name and phone number there. And the short-term rental number has to be posted on the exterior so they could contact that person. They can also do, again, code compliance complaint. The code has provisions in it for violations, and if after so many violations, you could lose your short-term rental permit. But it is code compliance. It's definitely, the neighbors are gonna observe most of what's going on. They have the choice of calling that 24/7 local contact that has to be available to respond within an hour, PD, or put in a code compliance complaint.
So the contact person, does it have to be the owner, or can be somebody he hires as like a manager or something?
It can be they can designate a person to be that. The code just says that they have to be available 24/7 and be able to respond within 1 hour.
And so the other question I had, so I thought you had mentioned that there's no kind of rules or anything for quiet times or anything like that?
The city does not have a noise ordinance established.
All right.
But again, it's my understanding that PD can deal with general nuisance type things. And after hours. If it's during the daytime, then I would suggest you contact code compliance or put in that complaint. If they were to have the code prohibits like bachelorette parties and family reunions, that kind of stuff. It's supposed to be a quiet, short-term rental, just your family staying overnight. But if it was happening during the daytime, you could contact code compliance and they could go investigate.
This is Commissioner Seals. I understand your concerns. I bought lakefront property in the late 80s here in the valley. When I bought the place, I could see one house across the lake. In the subsequent years, I had no neighbors on either side. Both lots were vacant. In the 30 years I lived there, you can probably see about 150 houses. And I ended up with neighbors who built right above me because of the shape of the lots on that side of the lake. Also, the neighborhood that used to have a private road from higher into the lake, well, they built a subdivision. So backing our property were a subdivision full of houses, and the people thought that our lake properties were lakefront visiting areas. So I can understand your concerns and how you feel, and I'm letting you know that the future is coming.
You missed the dead-end street part.
You're already zoned. Why change the zoning?
They didn't change the zoning.
I had a dead-end street as well. The street ended at my driveway.
But there's no place to extend our road or build another neighborhood. The railroad tracks are right there.
You can't have them.
We're dead end forever.
Audience.
I'm sorry, I'm giving you my opinion. I've listened to what you said. Cannot have discussion back and forth. It's just the way the rules are. I'm just letting you know I appreciate your concern, but the future is here, and the future is just going to keep coming.
That's fine, you just call it.
Is there any other discussion? Please state your name.
Commissioner Crafton, just to clarify, so do we have a reporting process now for, I mean, I think we all know it, and it sounds like from some of the comments that there are other short-term rentals that are happening on the street, and I mean, obviously in the city as well. What did you say the reporting process was for that specifically? If somebody found a short-term rental that was being operated or seemed to be operating, sometimes it's hard to tell.
Well, it can either be started with a code compliance officer, complaint can be put in online, or phone number is on the city webpage, code compliance, or you could contact the sales tax auditor in the finance department.
Okay. That basically, hey, somebody seems to be operating what would be a business, and it's not, they're not paying their sales tax because of that. And then there was, I'm trying to remember what the comment was. The 24-hour local contact, that is also somebody that has to be a local, that is, they have to be in the city within it, I believe, or respond within an hour. I'm trying to remember what our actual stipulation was for that. I know the owner of the property also has to be an Alaska resident. We don't allow these permits to be
He's a Washington resident.
for somebody that can't prove that they are an Alaska resident in the form of being able to receive their PFP is what it's stated.
He's a Washington resident.
Do you remember if our local contact requires them to be a local resident as well?
No, it doesn't have to be a local resident, just says that they have to be able to respond.
Within an hour. Gotcha. Okay. I couldn't. That wasn't very clear when I was reading through this as well. Yeah. No other comments. Thank you.
Commissioner Stafford, my thought and I appreciate everyone that came and shared their concerns tonight. Last year, we did our first short-term rental, and we rolled in late in the evening. Spent the whole day exploring southern Utah. We got in the house, went straight to bed, got up the next morning before sunrise, and was back out exploring the whole day. Came back, slept one more night, got up the next day, and left. So, and I realize that's probably not everyone's experience, but I know we certainly weren't in and out. We were in once in the evening, out once in the morning. We weren't there to see a house. We were there to see southern Utah. And I think as a basis for exploring, these provide an alternative to the traditional hotel room with a kitchen and you know whatnot. And so I don't think that they always have to be detrimental. I think they can be a very positive presence in a neighborhood. Just my only thought.
This Commissioner Sajel, I had a question for the applicant, if I could still ask.
Yes, sir.
What kind of screening process are you going to do for prospective tenants or people who are going to be staying there?
I have actually did the vacation called Great Boston, an extremely established organization that is familiar with the whole rent process. From my understanding, they're pretty scrupulous on screening the tenants, and up front, like they take larger deposits to cover their back, and the rules and regulations are clearly stated in the short-term rental agreement before they rent out to anybody or they put anybody on the calendar. So it's a very formal process. It's not just like, hey, let me get a phone call and, oh, sure, go ahead and put my house out.
Okay, you were kind of breaking up a little bit. So who was it you're using some kind of a company as a middleman, for lack of a better term?
Yes, it's an intermediary short-term rental agent.
Mr. Chair, I happen to know from seeing the application, it's Vacasa, V-A-C-A-S-A.
Okay.
And then they have agreements, just like the RBO, that kind of thing. It's one that you do online, and it has the rental agreement. In fact, some of the conditions are that they have to update. The guest works is the legal component of Vacasa that deals with the lease that the people who rent it have to sign. And all of the conditions and restrictions have to be included in that lease that lets them know about activities that are allowed in the home, the maximum occupancy, where the parking is, how many parking spaces, all of that.
Thank you. Other questions for me?
We have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. All in favor of approving the short-term rental permit number 2202, resolution serial number 2302, please say aye. Any opposed, please say nay.
Commissioner Stafford, yes, or aye.
Commissioner Crafton, aye.
Commissioner Sajel, nay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bernie, nay.
Commissioner Seals, aye.
So, Mr. Chair, just for the record, the motion does carry 3-2. Letters will be sent out of the notice after the chair signs the resolution, advising them of the appeal period, which is 15 calendar days from the date the chairman signs. And it'll be sent to everyone who submitted written comments and who attended the meeting tonight.
Thank you.
Including the applicant.
Good. You'll be hearing from us.
Thank you. Moving on to unfinished business. There is no unfinished business, so we move on to communications. Following items are under communications in the packet. Any comments?
Could we get a little bit of clarification what the Borough Planning Commission was? Was that just a heads up as to, hey, what they did their last meeting, pretty much?
It is, it's just informational. A previous meeting had asked that they have those agendas, and so we include them. If there was something of interest that you wanted to also discuss here.
No, I was like, I wasn't sure if there was something specific you wanted to comment about, or that needed to be commented, or if it was just a general informational. Thank you.
Sometimes you get a permit log, not how short it is.
There is one on page 85.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's one in here.
Is there any discussion or comments? Staff comments. Commission comments.
One, I enjoyed our first meeting. Glad we had some people turn out here. Commissioner Crafton here. Tina, you said we had a couple committees of the wholes coming up at this next meeting. It's more so, I believe it's our recommendation if we were to review the short-term rental code. We'd be recommending comments to the to the city council for approval, right? I don't think we can make the adjustments ourselves.
Yes.
We can recommend comments which would be brought up to the next city council meeting for them to approve or deny or make amendments or change at that point. I mean, if the commission would, we've had a couple now that have come up. There's been some expressed concerns about some of the approval process. And just having read through this myself now and looking at it, there was a couple things I had some concerns on that I'd like to discuss in a committee of the whole and maybe make some adjustments to make things a little bit easier for future applicants as well. If there's any objection from the commission.
None at this time.
So as long as the commission's in agreement to add it to the agenda.
Just for clarification, it may have been something I removed from your script, but we need audience comments. We skipped over that. No one wanted to provide any audience comments.
Oh, at the very end. They all left.
Never mind. I didn't realize they left.
I would have done it.
Yeah.
It was in my script, but
Okay, never
they
mind.
all left.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my only comment, was just adding the committee of the whole to review the, what is this, Title 16?
It's chapter
Chapters.
16.26.
Yes, that.
Well, and I have some comments on this situation that most of these short-term rentals, Airbnb, this Casa thing, they are very strict. They are really strict. And if you screw up at one of their rentals, you are blacklisted. So there's consequences for doing the wrong thing, and I know lots of people that do these things all the time. What they're going for is that high score, because it gives them access to better units and less hassle in getting the unit. So there's, on our side, we're just looking at the zoning, but these rental companies that are doing these rentals, and I don't know, were you at the last meeting? Yeah, the guy made a really good presentation. I mean, he's looking out for his business, and he's trying real hard to be neighborly. It's just, like I said earlier, I bought a beautiful piece of lakefront property, and when I sold it, it was because it was too crowded.
The part of a growing city.
Yep. All right. Oh, go ahead.
I just would like to, I know the audience has left that were in opposition to this motion, and I appreciate their concerns. I don't know if I just want to go on the record saying this or just get off my chest, but I understand their concerns, but as you said, a lot of these listing agencies have very stringent. I know the one that we rented in southern Utah, my sister-in-law actually arranged it. She said it was quite a process to get on. It's an owner that has a lot of value in his property, and it's a very stringent process to get in there. I don't think any property owner is looking to rent their property out to get trashed. And we are going to see more of these people, more of these applications coming in, and probably more neighbors protesting it coming in. And I understand wanting to preserve the neighborhood, but there's a lot of things that could disturb and disrupt the peacefulness of a neighborhood. One bad neighbor, any number of things, and it's a bummer when that happens. But I've always said if you want to control your neighborhood, you got to own your neighborhood, and where there's other lots that are owned by other people, then that's just something you have to work through. So I understand the neighbors' concerns, and I appreciate that we have a stringent application process that they have to go through. We're not just willy-nilly handing out these permits like M&Ms at Halloween. And so we're going to hear more of these, and we're going to probably hear more upset neighbors. And it's going to be interesting, but the question is are we going to let people do what they want with their property within certain limitations? So, thank you.
Mr. Bernie, do you have any comments at this time?
No, sir, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Sajal, any other comments?
No comments.
Well, hearing no other business come before the commission, this meeting is adjourned.
On the hour.
Start on the hour, end on the hour.